Let me introduce my guest for this Monday morning for the segment. And Nenyi George Andah is a Member of Parliament for Utu Senya West, but also a Deputy Minister for Communications. Thanks for joining me.
Good morning, Roland, and good morning to your viewers.
Thank you. You were in Cape Coast, definitely.
Definitely. We had a great time there.
Yes, I know and I recall.
And good morning to my brother Al-Hassan.
Okay. Al-Hassan Sohini is a Member of Parliament for Tamale North. And Al-Hassan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Roland. He didn't invite me to Cape Coast, so he's making amends for the
Oh, but your party was represented.
I wanted a personal invitation.
Okay.
We were talking when we were getting our makeup done, and he was complaining that
You didn't invite him.
We didn't invite him. I said, Al-Hassan, when he comes, he'll come and behave like he's smiling, that he'll be throwing bombs. So the bombs that he wanted to throw, he should throw them here.
Yeah, because I know he has a bomb he wants to throw.
He has a bomb he wants to throw.
Oh, come on. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not on any suicide mission. If I throw a bomb here, it will consume all of us. So.
Well, good that you're not on any watch list. Once you're not on any watch list, there's nothing for us to be afraid of.
That's right.
All right. So we have notable issues to speak of, but Nenyi, I have to start with you. You would say a very good congress, a very good conference. You call it conference. They call it congress.
Right. So what we had is what we call it.
Yes, conference.
Yes.
It was a good one. Sight and sound, great speeches, and great motivation for the entire membership of the NPP, won't you say?
Okay, before I start talking about the conference, I just want to say that all Ghanaians should bear in mind that in the next couple of days, free SHS is coming on stream, where all those who have gained admission to public schools in the first year are going to enjoy all the benefits that come across or that come along with the free SHS policy as we have initiated. And I think that is commendable. It's good to commend the Minister of Education and his team at the ministry and all the other sectors, all the other supporting staff that have helped to make sure that this policy or this initiative comes to life. And I wish all the beneficiaries well. Now, specifically to the conference, you see, per our constitution, we need to have an annual delegates conference from the constituency level, then it builds up to the regional level, and it builds up to the national level. So over the period of the past month or two, all constituencies have had their annual constituency delegates conference, and then it went ahead to the regional level. And what we experienced over the weekend was the national annual delegates conference. It's a time for us to reflect as a family. We've come into power. How was the journey getting into power? Since we've been into power, what have we done well? What are some of the areas where we could have improved? It's an opportunity for us to listen to feedback from our brothers from the other political ideologies. It's an opportunity for us to engage. It's an opportunity for us to brainstorm. And it's an opportunity for us to also look at our vision. And you know that we came into power with a manifesto where we said we were looking at an agenda for change, creating prosperity and equal opportunities for all. And that is what the Ghanaians bought into and voted massively for His Excellency the President Andah Akufo-Addo. Never ever experienced in this Fourth Republic or maybe the history of Ghana, 54% first time. Roland, we use this opportunity to, like I said earlier on, listen to what our friends from the other sides also had for us. And I'm excited that the organization was well done. The support that we had from the security agencies, the support that we had from the media was superb. And I believe that the messages that we wanted to take out have been delivered. The theme for the agenda was delivering on our promises, our roots, our strengths, and our future. and I think that we made a good job out of it. There were people that were expecting that certain positions would be elected for at the delegates conference. But however, this delegate conference is not one that elects. And then there were also some proposals for the amendments, for certain amendments to be considered to the Constitution. However, conference agreed that those proposals should be given to NEC for NEC to review, and then after that, a special delegates conference could be called to review those proposals. So I think that in as much as there were clear objectives to be delivered, we managed that. And the messages that came out were clear. The messages that came out from Alhaji Dr. Baumia talking about the economy and how well the economy was doing, looking at where we had come from. The messages that came from His Excellency, the former President of the Republic of Ghana, talking about how we should focus on building a government to deliver on our objectives, how we should be sensitive to criticisms within the party, and how we should comport ourselves. And there's an interesting comment that he made that a lot of people are expecting. I mean, the expectations are high. We do recognize the fact that expectations are high, but he was like, NPP is not cassava that you plant and within 6 months you expect to get results. So so far there have been results that have been coming in. And of course, I mean, His Excellency the President also came out, clear direction, reinstated his vision, talked about the fact that he wasn't going to allow anybody to rock the boat. And I think that it was a feeling of unity, a feeling of a government that is responsible, feeling of a party that is happy and grateful to Ghanaians for giving us an opportunity to serve them in humility, to serve them with honesty, and to work hard for the change that would, or is and will be creating prosperity and equal opportunities for all. Roland, it is also appropriate for me to make reference to the fact that on Friday, His Excellency the President and the Vice President cut sword for the first one district, one factory in Ekumfi. And this was also in the central region. And I believe that what we had said when we were campaigning was that we believe that we needed to empower Ghanaians at the district level. We needed to make sure that people felt relief in their pockets, and the way that we thought that this could be done was to empower Ghanaians at the district level. And that is what brought out the initiative of the One District, One Factory. The concept of the One District, One Factory has always been a PPP arrangement. And wherever the community doesn't have the resources, then yes, government could come in. But it is supposed to be private sector led. And you know that as far as the NPP is concerned, we believe that the economic growth of every country, we believe that providing employment would be led by the private sector and not necessarily the government sector. But yes, we'll partner the private sector to make sure that we deliver on these initiatives. And the model that the Secretariat led by Madam Gifty and her team in partnership with the Ministry of Trade have rolled out is a solid model. I mean, so we're looking at areas where there are local resources, and those local resources could be anything ranging from local raw materials to some kind of local technology, or even people that are there.
So for the Ekumfi one, for example, it's a private person or a private investor who's putting together the facility.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but with support from the Secretariat. Yeah, if I could.
So what kind of support?
Okay, so there's a model. I need to explain the model, and I'll come to the support. I'm sorry that I'm taking a bit of time, but I'll cede some of my time to Al Hassan. We have in every production environment, you have your materials. Okay, you need to create an environment where your materials can be turned into something that adds value. Okay, so that there's some economic potential that is created. So you have your raw materials. What gaps have been identified? Managerial skills, technical skills, lack of proper knowledge. And so you need to make sure that once you have the materials, you have the right machinery to churn these materials into products that are in high demand, and the emphasis is products that are in high demand, either on the local or international market, or both. Okay, so that if it's food that is being produced, then it's going to add up to the food sufficiency that is required in the country. If it's something that is going to be exported, then it puts less pressure on our foreign reserves. So you look at your materials, you look at your managerial skills. Of course, you're looking at your men, your people that you're going to employ. And with this one district, one factory, we're saying that over the next 10 years, we expect that each district or each district factory will be employing between 2,000 and 5,000 workers directly. Okay, now if you drag this to those that are going to be employed indirectly, then you're getting a very massive figure. And this clearly goes
along the value chain.
Exactly, it ties into our commitment to provide employment for the people. And as far as the contribution to GDP is concerned, we're looking at about $6 million annual contribution to our GDP. So this is an interesting concept. It's a great concept that would drive economic empowerment, will provide jobs, would make sure that the kind of activities at the district levels are improved, the kind of attention that our districts get. And like my brother Al-Hassan was telling me earlier on, if you look at CAN 2008, the kind of additional services that came up with hosting an activity in some regions, even though maybe at that point in time, the economic benefit did not come immediately, but those facilities are there. Those services are being provided there. So it's been something that has been good for Ghana. And as far as the one district, one factory is concerned, the concept is solid. Okay, we are delivering on these things. We are making sure that there's a market available. If you look at the previous models, the outgrower schemes, for example, were not fully functional or were not fully incorporated into the value chain. But if you look at what happened on Friday, yeah, well, I think there was a bit of a disconnect. I mean, but if you look at what happened on Friday, I mean, there was a whole canopy where the outgrower farmers were there represented, and they gave their commitment to support this. Now, it doesn't matter who started planting the pineapples. The fact that the pineapples have been planted and the fact that we can add value to the pineapples means that there are learnings that can be taken, for example, from the Commander Sugar Factory, okay, where the plant was there, but there's no raw materials to be processed. So I think that the business of governance is not an event, okay? It's not that one government comes and then that's something and somebody comes and throws it away. It's about a continuation of policies, it's a continuation of good things that ultimately would benefit Ghanaians and make the lives of Ghanaians better. And that's exactly what we are doing.
Good, great introduction there. Also, only 2 minutes for you then.
Only 2 minutes.
No, just kidding.
Right.
At the end of the day, yeah.
Don't make me respond and you say I'm a difficult person who lies to take government.
No. I'm just kidding about that. Please, let's go on the subject. Because your party was also represented by the Deputy General Secretary of the party.
Yeah, so Roland, I'm a Dagomba, but I'm not difficult and I don't like to take government.
You see, you're starting again.
Okay. Now I know where you're coming from. I believe you're referring to the comment of the Deputy Agriculture.
I hope we'll find time to discuss that. But
maybe let's address that now, and then you can continue.
It's on the agenda today, but if you want to address
it. I think
it's not on the agenda today.
Roland,
no, it's something that we can bring in. So.
Because it's trending. I'm surprised it's not on the agenda
Roland, I agree with him. I think that we should address that, and then
we'll talk about it.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it.
We'll mainstream it quickly, just after the conference.
Okay, but I want to just start from something that is not related to the conference because I find it interesting. It's on page 20 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. It says, City FM host of Eyewitness News apologized to Alhaji Inusa Hussaini. Now, the story has to do with, I'm sure you recall, that was during the 2016 general elections when it was reported that he had paid Shatawali 150,000 Ghana cedis to perform at his campaign launch. Okay. Now the story that is published by the Ghanaian Times says that the said publications allege that Alhaji Inusa Hussaini had paid the sum of 150,000 to popular artist Shatawali to perform at a campaign launch in Tamale. The publications were untrue, without any basis whatsoever, and ought not to have been published. We hereby retract the false publications completely and render an unqualified apology to Alhaji Inusa Hussaini for the embarrassment, scorn, ridicule, harassment, and insults occasioned by the said publication. Now, that's an apology from the City FM group.
And why did you read it?
I read it so that we will understand that sometimes it is not everything we hear in the media that is true.
Okay, sure.
But you accept the apology?
It is not for me to accept. It is for Alhaji Inusa Hussaini
no, but
to decide.
but you recognize that it's in line, is the right thing.
I think it is the right thing that the station has done. I know that the matter was in court, and I'm sure it's as a result of the proceedings in court that this apology has come. But I just thought that I should put it out there so that listeners will understand that, especially during an election year, a lot of agenda is at stake, and people do publications that, you know, you have to really go beyond the headlines to understand what the motives may be. And so it's not everything you see on the newspaper or carried by a credible, you know, news station that is really true. And you just have to be careful.
I agree. And when they apologize, it means that they are doing the right thing.
Yeah, so, but I think that on the NPP conference, the Chronicle has
very captivating
a headline that I think captured it all. NPP's magic is back. The magic is back.
The magic to fix the economy.
You know, this, like my honorable colleague said, it's a constitutional requirement. But over the years, the NPP hasn't been able to do it. And I mean, my checks, and in fact, some media houses reported through interviews that they did with some party officials why they didn't do it when they were in opposition.
That, you mean the conference?
The conference, yes. The excuse was that they didn't have resources. They didn't have funds to do it. The magic is back. And so they are in power. Now they can do it from the constituencies all the way to, you know, do the national one just to satisfy their constitutional provision. One that they shelved because they didn't have resources. I'm sure it's for you and I to wonder where all the resources have emerged all of a sudden. But that's just on the site. It is good that the magic is back.
Very well.
Now, the speeches were, I think, very, very good in some way. For example, I think Nana Akufo-Addo said something, His Excellency the President, that I wish my party members will take seriously. In his appeal to his rank and file, their rank and file, to be patient with them, he said that if their party stay in power long enough, everyone will be catered for. I thought that was deep. And I think that advice should go for all political parties. And I know why I'm saying that, because one of the reasons why the NDC performed poorly in 2016 was attributable to some level of impatience from some party folks. It is not as if they didn't have the right to be impatient. They had the right because they had good reason to have expectations that were not met. But the advice is good, that when your party stay in power long enough, your opportunity, you know, the chances of your opportunity emerging is higher. So if you get disappointed, you get disillusioned, and then as a result cause defeat to your party, you are not going to be better than those who have had opportunities already.
You're saying that the defeat of NDC really was caused by the party?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that one of the reasons, one of the many reasons, and maybe it is, if you are going to rank, it will be the 50th reason. But one of the reasons is that some party members felt they were left out.
They felt disenchanted.
Exactly, disillusioned, and so, but Nana Akufo-Addo is telling his party people, and I think that advice should go to party members who are in the NDC also, that next time we have power, we should learn that the longer our tradition is in power, the better the chances of us all getting opportunity. So I think that was deep. Now, President Kufuor also spoke very well about putting the party first and about addressing issues, especially grievances internally. That is the way to go. That is for all parties to emulate. Let's understand that there's no gain in addressing party grievances in the media. I mean, especially for us in the NDC, forgive me, Roland, but we have a hostile media towards the NDC. I mean, so it is not...
You mean largely?
Largely. We have a hostile media, largely. So it is not in the interest of any NDC person to get excited because a microphone is shoved in your face or a television camera is pointed at you and at a time that you have a grievance. I say this all the time, especially even to my colleagues when I was in broadcasting. If you notice, there are some media houses, they don't review some NDC newspapers until that newspaper has a story that is negative of the NDC. They don't. They won't review. I can mention the names of those newspapers.
No,
you
mean the NDC related?
The NDC related newspapers. Okay. The stations, there are stations that are said to be independent stations that will never review those NDC newspapers until they see a story in that newspaper that is critical of the NDC. So you should learn that they are not reviewing you because they like your story. They are reviewing you because they like what you are doing to your party.
So
you see,
sorry,
can I go ahead. Maybe when I finish. So I'm saying that President Kufuor's advice to his party folks can also apply to us in the NDC. And I think that that's why I said some of the speeches were good. As a party, we should also be learning that, look, we have a tradition to protect. Yes, I have said somewhere that one of our problems as a party is that we are suffering from an identity crisis. You have a tradition which you don't really know what it is. You just know your principles. You just know what you stand for. But really, are we Nkrumahs? Are we Rawlinses? And what does Rawlinses mean? We still have to find that identity. I think it's a challenge to the party hierarchy and leadership to find that identity so we can pin it down and defend it at all costs. But my favorite speech was from our Deputy General Secretary, Anyidoho. Fantastic speech. I mean, he couldn't have put it better. The NDC, inshallah, is still in a comfortable lead to winning election 2020. And then he went ahead to catalog some of the challenges that we have faced as a nation since the NPP ascended the throne. The issue of the Delta forces, the bust issues, the bond issues. I mean, you name them. The plagiarism issues. I like the way he ended it by stating emphatically that his speech was not plagiarized. I think the Deputy General Secretary of our party speech was my favorite on the day. And once again, I wish the NPP well. But just to wrap up, I would like to make some few comments on the tangent that was introduced by my honorable colleague in relation to
the one district,
one factory. Yes, I think it was a good move politically, not with much substance, because
they have a factory. There'll be a factory.
Well, you see, first of all, the NPP has been very good at renegotiating their campaign promises since they got into power. They have been renegotiating them. I mean, one district, one factory, we're told, was a campaign promise to be implemented by the government of Nana Akufo-Addo. By the government of Nana Akufo-Addo. Now, since they got into power, we have been hearing about, you know, the fact that the enabling environment is what will be created in most cases for private sector to take advantage and set up the factories. Now, that was not the initial promise, or at least that is not how it was couched initially.
Perhaps maybe you misunderstood.
No. Read their manifesto. It's there. In black and white. It's there. I mean, listen to the speeches that they gave. Now, again, remember we had 1 million, one constituency as a standalone promise. We had one district, one factory as a standalone promise. We had one village, one dam as a standalone promise. Now, in the budget of 2017, 1 million, one constituency is supposed to support one district, one factory. It is from the 1 million, one constituency that support that will be extended to the creation of a district.
So let me get my understanding of what you're saying. You're saying that if somebody wants to draw down,
if somebody wants to set up a factory, say in a district,
also, it has to come from
the 1 million,
and then that will satisfy.
And that
the
is
constituency funding that's set up.
That's not true. That's not true.
Well, but when I finish, you can say what is true. I'm telling you what the truth is.
How can you be?
I'm telling you.
Be sitting down here
when I finish,
you haven't read, you haven't understood the manifesto.
No, when I finish, you can say what the truth is.
Okay, fine.
But I will advise that you check again. Check again, because the 1 million is now, supposed to take care of the one village, one dam, take care of the one district, one factory. So I'm saying that what happened in Ekonfi was good politically, but nothing of substance. Because why?
There will be a factory that was set up.
So I will address that. You see, the NDC began a process of creating these factories. And if you remember, during the campaign of 2016, we talked about the Commander Sugar Factory and other factories that we were already supporting. The only difference is that we did not name it one district, one factory. One such area that was supposed to benefit from a factory was Ekonfi. And that is why the first phase of the project was to support the cultivation of pineapples. Now, the difference between that and the former President John Mahama in 2016 used to explain the concepts. The difference between that and the Commander Sugar Factory is that the Commander Sugar Factory was called backward integration. I'm sure you remember the phrase. The former president used to explain it, that, look, we have, in the case of Commander Sugar, where we are doing backward integration, where you put up the factory and then it attracts the raw material, the production of raw material. So there's outgrower and all of that. Now, what was happening in Ekonfi was what we know, the normal integration. And so the government set out $1.2 million with support from JICA, extended it to farmers to begin the plantation of pineapples. So you make the raw material available, and then you begin the process of, canning
so you're saying that enabling environment was not really created by the
and if you listen to Madam Gifty, yes, if you listen to Madam Gifty on Friday after the launch, when she spoke to your sister station, she said that when they came into power, and then they got a proposal from the gentleman who is promoting this factory, they looked at the proposal and they realized that everything was in place. My emphasis is everything was in place. Everything that was in place didn't just fall from the sky. Somebody made sure that everything was in place. And so that
so you're saying they should give due recognition.
It met the criteria. So it's that's what I'm saying, that look, yes, it is good that they are continuing with this project. But again, if this was supposed to be an NPP, if this was what the NPP was promising, I think the Ghanaian people would have been better off allowing the NDC to continue and do it. They promised something extraordinary. They didn't promise to come and continue what we were already doing. Because if the NDC had been in power, this is what we would have done. So what is extraordinary? What was the extraordinary thing that they promised? Do you get it? Because we had started the process and it was going to culminate into a factory. Okay. So they have come, and like Madam Gifty said, everything was in place, and they went to cut salt and do a party at the venue. And then they say, is their baby. That is not the baby they promised. Yes, it is good they are continuing, but I'm saying that they promised something extraordinary. They did not promise a continuation in this form. So I would have wished that maybe...
Okay, so ideally, your understanding of the one district, one factory concept would have been that government is the one establishing the factory?
I am saying that that was the campaign rhetoric. Now, there's nothing wrong with government supporting private sector, because under the NDC, we also promoted the PPPs. That's the public-private partnership agreement.
So it's still a government initiative.
So it is still a government initiative. Okay. So I'm saying there's nothing wrong with it. Okay. But I'm saying that what the campaign looked like is different from what what we are told the implementation is going to be now, which is also not bad. I'm not criticizing that. It's also fine. If they are successful at getting private, capital into the establishment of these factories across the country, that will be good. But then again, at the launch, the NPP still was in the campaign mood. Here you were, His Excellency the President was talking about 5,000 people that will be employed. Madam Gifty was talking about 400 that will be employed by the factory and 5,000 indirectly. Then you had Madam Gifty talking about 51 that will be completed by end of year. Meanwhile, the first one that they were at cutting sort for construction to begin, we are told, will be useful in 2018, June 2018.
They would have completed.
That's the first one. June 2018 is when they are expecting it to be completed. Yet, at that program, that's the first one, they were telling Ghanaians that by end of year, 51 will be ready. So, I think that by my calculation, the 51 that will be ready, they haven't even cut the sort yet. Because the one that they have cut the sort will be ready in June 2018.
It's not meaning that perhaps cutting
well,
off salt.
No, they said it will be ready, that it will be operational. And that 2016, they said operational. You go and listen to them. They said it will be operational, that 51 will be operational by end of year.
Okay, but
still in campaign mode.
Among all the events that took place,
is it Roland?
The former president Kufuor said Akufo-Addo and his government are not just like cassava to mature in 6 months. And then you also said that technocracy needs to be created in the political party, especially the NPP, talking about how they need to have dedicated workforce and who will be well paid. And this morning I was telling Mama V that this rhetoric is only heard from the parties when they are in office. Because we don't know how the parties are funded, how the funds come in, and so it becomes very unsustainable to say that you want to pay people dedicatedly, unless perhaps we want some funding from the state, and that will be plausible. Then we'll use those funding to cater for party activities. That would be good. What would you say? I know you want to respond to some of the things.
Yeah, before I address that issue, let me correct some wrong impressions. Roland, our manifesto was clear on the concept of the one district, one factory. We've always said that it was a PPP arrangement. Okay, I would request my brother to go read the manifesto and understand fully what there is in the manifesto. The spirit of the NPP, the ideology that we believe in, is on property, owning democracy. It's about empowering the people. It's about empowering the private sector. And we haven't hidden this at all at any point that we have the opportunity to explain what we believe in and what our spirit is. So I'm really at a loss that he would even suggest that the NPP promise of one district, one factory was going to mean that government was going to own, operate, and then run industry in the district. It has never been the case, and it will never be the case. We believe in creating the enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. Okay, and Roland, you are aware that has always been our position. So clearly he's wrong. But Roland, let me also explain that the $1 million per constituency is to improve infrastructure in the constituency. It is not to run the one district, one factory. We should understand this clearly. So if I have...
Because that was the initial understanding I got from...
That what?
That it's supposed to enhance infrastructure development.
Exactly. Okay, so
where
he is getting
central
confused,
government is coming in this
where he is getting confused is, even in Wuti Senior West, there's say a salt processing industry that is going to be set up, and there's no water, there's no electricity for the operation to run. There are no good roads, okay, for raw materials to be delivered or finished product to leave the market. There's basic lack of infrastructure, hospitals, schools, okay? The $1 million, if my district and I believe that we are going to provide 5,000 jobs, from that industry, for example, I'm just saying 5,000 from that industry, it makes sense for us to commit part of our $1 million a year to improve the infrastructure that is going to serve that industry. It doesn't mean that the
industry in itself,
that industry in itself, which is going to get its funding.
If you listen to Madam Gifty, that's what they said they are doing for this Equinfi factory.
Alasa, when I tried to interrupt you didn't like it. I want to think far.
Sorry.
Okay. The funding is going to be provided by an arrangement. And again, if you watched, okay, you saw that Universal Merchant Bank was there. You saw that the Chinese Exim Bank was there. You saw that the Fidelity Bank was there. The resources that they are committing, okay, has nothing to do with the $1 million that is going to drive infrastructure development. So clearly, let us draw that distinction. Let us understand. Suhini is a member of parliament, okay, and there will be $1 million going into his constituency to drive infrastructure. He shouldn't go and use that $1 million to create a factory, because that is not the concept. So you need to understand it.
I don't have control over it. You have control over it as an MP.
Let me also say that we are promised that by the end of our first term, there were going to be at least 216 of these factories in each of the districts. Nobody said that they were all going to be created in a year. We said at the end of the first term. Okay? And Roland, it makes sense for something to start, okay, and for it to be continued. So if indeed the full potential of the Equinfi factory is going to be realized in 2018, it is better than nothing. If you had a situation where you planted pineapples, okay, and there was no market where the outgrowers could benefit financially, there was no way that they could add value to the raw materials. There was no way that other people in providing different services were going to benefit from it. Then obviously you cannot say that there's nothing good about whatever we have done. And lastly, let me end. I'm not surprised that he sees Anyidoho's speech as the most exciting thing that happened since maybe sliced bread was discovered. But with all due respect, you recall, okay, that at the NDC conference or Congress, whatever they will call it, a couple of years ago, when Ivor Greenstreet went there and told them what they were doing wrong, he spoke like the way other people would speak. You saw what happened, to the extent that the executives of the NDC were saying very unkind words about him, including some making reference to his fiscal conditions. That's not what the NPP is about. Okay? Anyidoho and the president shook hands. They shook hands. Okay, that is the beauty of our democracy. The fact that when we are in power, okay, there's freedom for people to express themselves. And remember that what I was saying is that as part of the objectives of the conference, the reason why we invite other people from other parties is that it's an opportunity for us to receive feedback. We are listening government. Okay, so yes, in the things that he was saying, he's saying that they're expecting free SHS. They're expecting the one district, one factory. So our message has gotten well with them. The one thing that they forgot to add is that the office of the special prosecutor, they should have said that they were waiting for that as well, because that is going to come. And His Excellency, the President, stated that clearly. He stated that clearly, that no matter how much they try and frustrate the process, it will come. Okay, and it's going to come. Okay, and that applies to even those that are serving in this government. Okay, he has stated clearly that no one in his government is going to be shielded from corruption, and that any claim of corruption, he has authorized the relevant agencies to carry out a full-blown investigation. He's not waiting for evidence to be provided. That is the mark of a leader. Okay, and that is what we are talking about.
Can we have dedicated party officers that will create the sort of technocracy that the former president is talking about?
You see, again, as far as the Constitution of Ghana is concerned, every constituency of an active party should have a party office, a building structure. Now, that building structure has to be operated. So yes, there must be a way where things should happen. And you see, it doesn't, when you see an election as an event, that is when you wait till the last minute and then you just put things in place quickly to just run. But if you're looking at delivering on an agenda, you're looking at issues that are current, you're looking at issues that are our future. Okay, you're looking at making sure that the roots of the party, it's consistent with whatever it is they are doing for. Then you need to have those technocrats to be able to allow those that are operationalizing to focus on the operations. I mean, it's like running any business.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, you have your business operating. You have your strategy.
Because you could have a politician who necessarily is not somebody who can run a political party office.
Exactly.
Okay,
and he has no skills in there.
Right.
Okay, but you have somebody.
And that's what the former president is talking about.
Exactly.
You have to comment the NDC. Then they have a party school now. Kind of. Also
well, they say they have a party school. Yes, it's good. Okay. I mean, listen, Roland. I think that our democracy has grown. If somebody is doing something good, yes, let's commend them like you are saying. Okay. And let us not go back and forth. They are doing something good. The same way as he does, as he's picked up key messages from what His Excellency the President said and is advising his party. He's picked up messages from what His Excellency the former President Kufuor said and he's advising his party. Where there's something good, pick it up and let's run with it. At the end of the day, it's to the benefit of Ghana.
Take a soundbite also, but please wrap up for me on this. Having technocrats for the political parties, could it be something we can dream about? And how do we fund those activities?
It's worth considering, but just under 1 minute, I just want to share this story on my Joy Online for you. It says, NPP flag bearer Nana Akufo-Addo says the party has already prepared a list of enterprises to be developed in various parts of the country under its one district, one factory policy. He says about 300 projects have been identified in all 216 districts, though he will not give details. Nanado tells Nshira FM's Kofi Asante the NPP is serious about the program, having shortlisted over 300 potential factories for 2016 districts. So I told you about the renegotiation that is currently going on. If you listen to Madam Gifty, the office is open. People are now sending in proposals. They don't have 300 like he promised before the campaign. That's Nana Akufo-Addo who promised that they have 300 already shortlisted and they are ready to roll. That's why I'm telling you that the campaign message is different from the implementation on the ground and the renegotiation of the campaign promises.
Okay, no rebuttal.
But let's move on.
It's just a matter of education.
It's just
Roland, it's just a matter of education.
It really comes in. I'll have to
no
come
problem,
in again.
no problem.
Roland,
just a matter of education.
So let's move on. He's made his point, I've made my point. So let's move on.
Your production team can check with the Ministry of Trade.
I think that the point,
there's no matter.
The point has to be made. The point has to be made that the proposal to make party officers, you know,
have the competence, the expertise, and the experience.
Grow institutions. It's a laudable one. I think that it will help our democracy. The problem with it is that party work largely is voluntary. Many people who are the party officers are not paid.
Should it be?
I think, and I think that if we want that to happen, where we build the institutions with technocrats, then we'll have to find a way of funding our political parties better, so that such officers who will be employed to work and build such institutions will have some remuneration. I think that it's going to be very difficult for one to dedicate his experience, his knowledge, and his time for free when he has bills and family to take care of. Once a while, when you are allowed to engage in other businesses, whilst volunteering for the party, it's not much of a difficulty. But then again, it doesn't also allow you the space to contribute as much as you would have, you know, if you were fully engaged and employed by the party. I know a lot of people who will want to be employed by their parties to work for the party. They would love to dedicate their knowledge, their experience just for the party, but they also have to keep body and soul together. So I think it is a laudable one, but it has to be put in the context of our ability to support such an institution to grow, because it will require some funding.
Some funding. All right. Also in the news is the subject of the SNIT saga, and we know that Joy News has intercepted a letter that reveals management of SNIT was cancelled against backdating payments for the software, and we're told that that advice in a memo was not heeded to. It was from the senior corporate law officer of SNIT, and we know the controversy surrounding the procurement of that software, the initial cost, and then the cost building up, racking up to about 72 million, we're told. It's a big controversy, you'd say.
Well, when you say it's a controversy, I'm not too sure where you're coming from. I think that there's a lot that is coming out of this SNIT institution and how it was run. And as far as I'm concerned, I do recall that the current Director General has stated that EOCO were carrying out an investigation. And I think that we should be a bit patient to get the full facts of the matter. But yes, it's worrying, some of the things that are coming out. And if you think of the fact that this is money that Ghanaians have contributed, and this is money that Ghanaians expect to benefit from when they go on retirement, and there seems to be an impression that is being created that people have been quite irresponsible in the investments that have been made, in how the money is being used, then it is extremely worrying. But I believe that EOCO is carrying out the investigation. I believe that between EOCO and the management of SNIT, within the next couple of days, they should be able to come out and state the facts out clearly, and then we in the public can start the proper kind of discourse. I'm a bit careful to go on a tangent when the full facts are not out there, because then you could be running somebody down, and the damage may be extremely difficult to repair.
I think that you are being circumspect. So then that leads to a question. So why then are we naming and shaming people when we're now having institutions that are supposed to investigate and bring us some full facts?
Well, I don't think that the press release that you are talking about, or the statement that you are talking about, is coming from the government, or is coming from the NPP, or is coming from the NDC.
There was a press conference that was held by the chairman of the SNIT board.
Yes, and then the issues were laid out. Some issues were laid out, and in that press conference, he did state that EOCO had been given the mandate to investigate. And so I think that we should be patient. I mean, I think when His Excellency the President says we should be patient, and again when my brother Allah Hassan says we should be patient as Ghanaians, it cuts across a number of areas. Yes, we're in a hurry to make sure that the change that we promise happens, but sometimes if we are just a few days patient, we could get the full facts of the matter, and we'll be able to address the issue. So this issue is not going to run away. It's not going to be buried under the carpet. But let us get the full facts of the matter. Fact of the matter now, as far as I'm concerned, is I am worried, I'm concerned. But I don't want to jump the gun. I want to have the full facts of the matter, and then we can have a proper informed discussion. Yes.
I'm sure that we'll get a lot more understanding when the report.
I don't know whether you would want him to comment on that.
Sohini, you want to talk about it, especially the controversy up to now, and of course subsequently Joy News publishing that he had intercepted this letter that was coming. It's a memo really coming from the head of the legal department of SNIT, ultimately perhaps just advising management from, as far as the service level agreement is concerned, not making an initial payment, and even not backdating the payment as it is.
Well, sometimes I agree with Honorable George that, if I'm permitted to call you George.
You can call me Nini, you can call whatever you want to call your brother.
I agree with him that, you know, on the face value, any Ghanaian who is concerned about how monies are utilized by people in authority will be concerned. But then, are the issues emerging real issues? And why are the issues even in the media in the first place? And why are the issues presented the way they are presented? To what end? I mean, if the issues are conclusive, as the media is presenting it, then why contract an audit firm to do an audit? Why don't you just proceed to take legal action and remedial action? Why? Why is the media presenting the matter as if it's a concluded matter? Money has been wasted. People have misapplied funds. When, in fact, what has happened is that an audit firm has just been contracted to look into the matter. Now, I look at this story, Roland, I don't know if you have read it, and I can't understand it. I have read the memo 3 times since we got it. I have read the story 4 times, and I can't get the head and tail of it. It talks about SNIT saga, lawyers advise against backdating payment for software, ignored. Now you read what is quoted from the memo in this story, and it says, quote, what it means is that SNIT will have to pay the annual SLA, service level agreement fee of $2 million immediately upon signing the agreement to cover from September 2014 to September 2015 and pay another $2 million in September this year, 2016, when in effect, it would have just received about 9 months of service under the SLA instead of the contractual 2 years. This is objectionable. Senior Corporate Law Officer Orleans Lindsay explained in the correspondence to the General Manager. Now, if you read this, the understanding you get is that advance payment was made and not backdating payment. If you read this, the understanding I get from this is that advance payment was made, for which he the corporate lawyer, had issues with. Well, now, again, you look at the memo. And what is considered backdated is an agreement and not a payment. It's an agreement. It says that, this says 2012, and consequently it is my considered legal opinion that there is no lawful or even factual basis to backdate the OBSL agreement. Okay, so he's talking about an agreement that is backdated, yet the headline says payment was backdated. As if some check was issued.
Now let's get this.
So explain.
We have an SLA service level agreement. It's undertaken. Now, what this memo is trying to tell the general manager or the managing director, or whoever was heading SNIT at the time, from the head of legal, was that you're making us pay for a service for which, in actual fact, the duration by which we're going to pay, we're going to receive less service.
That's what I'm saying. So you pay more.
So we're going to pay for 2 years.
But we are getting 9 months. That's not a backdated payment.
No, let me add to what Roland is saying. Roland, if I may.
Roland, is that a backdated payment? Can you answer?
Alassane, if I may.
That's what I'm saying.
You see, in the process of engaging in a contract, there's the agreement that is being done, there's a contract, it moves to the PO and stuff like that. Now, the PO would be based on what is in the contract. Now, where the flag was, my understanding was that at the time that the service was being contracted, the actual benefit to SNIT was going to be 9 months going forward.
Right.
However, the contract had been backdated the service delivery 2 years back. Hold on. So which means that the payment that was going to be made was going to include 2 years of non-benefit to SNIT. And that was what is being flagged. It's not an advance payment.
No, we're talking about 2014. We know when the contract was signed. Was it not around 2012 thereabout that we are told the contract was promoted? Now we are talking about 2014, 2015 payments. So it cannot be
my understanding was that the benefit was going to be 9 months in 2016. So for the 2 prior years, there was actually not any benefit to SNIT. I mean, maybe there was
service
no service delivered.
So
maybe,
then again, let me finish.
So, Alassane, you know what we're doing. You know what we're doing.
Yes.
We are getting into something where we don't have the full facts.
I raise this just to caution that what the media is doing to all of us as a country is not safe. It's not safe because you see, you will project things like this in a conclusive manner, the way you do, and then put our democracy in jeopardy. And later, when maybe the audit proves that what is alleged is incorrect, the people who would have gone away with this conclusive report will not have the benefit of that information anymore. And then they lose confidence in the establishment, and the alternative will be dangerous for all of us. So that is why I'm saying that we need to be cautious. There's no gain in rushing to pronounce people corrupt and guilty.
There was a press conference that was held, and I believe the media too has been feeding.
You know, Roland, and let me just
but that's okay.
No, I just want to compare.
I don't have the time.
No, please pardon me, just under 1 minute. I just want to compare this to something that I saw when I was doing a search. For example, yes, like I said, on the face value, 72 million is such a big figure, and that was to handle pension. Now you have the Public Procurement Authority, also undertaking an e-procurement software. They have gone for an e-procurement software in July this year. That is to check procurement. And guess how much the value is? About $97 million.
So 79.
97, sorry. It's 97. It's 97 million. It's here. The project was funded by the World Bank at an estimated cost of $97 million.
It's a World Bank funded project.
Good. But now you see, Roland, can I also just say that Public Procurement Authority procures e-procurement software at $97 million, and well, that is wow. So if the World Bank is funding it, it can be 97 million. But if Ghanaians are funding another software, I'm not saying it's justifiable. I'm just saying that some of these headlines can be misleading. If you say 72 million software, wow, I mean, it will hit me as a taxpayer, and I was hit by it. But I'm saying that, okay, I take my time. I see that Public Procurement Authority also is undertaking a software to check procurement, which is good because we need to check our procurements, especially public procurements. And it is costing them $97 million. Okay, then I pause. And I say, okay, then it may not just be a software that
so
you
all of them are softwares
from
all right.
You
my,
know,
my time is up.
Some of them
I had wanted you to comment on the subject of the Deputy Agriculture Minister, but we can't.
No, please, Roland. I think it's very important that we address that.
This is a trending issue.
Just 2 minutes.
You don't have time for
just 2 minutes, please. I think that you'll be doing your viewers a lot of service if we address this issue. We'll be doing your viewers and Ghanaians a lot of service if we address this issue.
Okay, so it's about the Deputy Minister of Agriculture making some comments, particularly about people of northern extraction, and in related subject of how the government was able to or not deal with the fall armyworm invasion. And that interview was on a sister station, or an Accra-based radio station.
Okay.
And you want to make a first commentary before he makes it?
Well, I think that
just to paraphrase what the minister said, so if you can.
Well, you know, first of all, thank you for intervening for us to get the 2 minutes. I'm surprised this credible platform didn't have that time for us to look at this very important issue. I think we should, because it is a sensitive matter.
13 seconds has gone.
I think it's a very sensitive matter, and many people in the northern region, especially the Gombes, are not enthused about it. The fact that the minister thinks the Gombes are difficult people and they lie easily so that they can get government money because he has lived with them for 27 years and he knows what he's saying is simply reckless. But then again, I am not surprised as a person. I mean, because in the past, some of us have been at pains trying to highlight some of these issues so that together we can condemn it and ensure that people do not emulate it. Yet, in our efforts, people described our efforts as doing tribal politics. If you spoke about what Kennedy Ajapong said about some tribes in this country, you were said to be doing tribal politics, so shut up. If you spoke about what Osafo Mafu said about resources of this country and how they are, you know, distributed, you were said to shut up because we are doing tribal politics. But you were highlighting these issues. As Lawusu said, had it not been for free education, cattle rearers, some said we are charcoal burners. When you highlight these things, then they say NDC4, you are doing tribal politics. Now, I am surprised that those people who did not support us in criticizing and condemning this so that others will not emulate all of a sudden are pained by what the deputy minister has said. I'm not saying it, but you see, Roland, when we pick and choose, you know, it's not helpful.
I don't. I wish that
people are saying they should sack the deputy minister, but I don't think so.
Roland, I think we have to find
senior minister.
Roland, and to your viewers,
just 2 minutes.
Yeah, just 2 minutes. I mean, listen, I'm not here to equalize. I mean, I'll not make references to what people within the NDC have said. That is not the issue. I think that there's a matter at hand. Some unfortunate comments were made. The minister, the deputy minister, who has lived with the community, has come out and done the honorable thing to apologize. I do not think that anybody should feel that the Northerners are being disrespected. Indeed, our vice president is a Northerner and he's a superstar in the party. So there's a total disconnect. I mean, I'm sure that from the banter or the discussion...
all you're saying is that this is not a party position, that's not how...
It is not a party position, and indeed, even the individual that made those comments has apologized remorsely. Okay, and the reason why when you brought the apology from CTFM, I asked him whether he accepts that apology, and he recognized it as a good thing to do, and indeed he said that yes, So I don't
No, I
understand.
didn't say accept. I said it's a good
So
thing
you're
to
saying
do.
there's an apology and it
I
should
don't
be
understand
accepted.
why when Inisa is apologized to, you
George
accept it,
Andah,
but
Member of
when the
Parliament
deputy
for-
minister, yes,
Senior West,
saying
and
that
he's a deputy minister for communications, and he was in the studio with Al Hassan Suhaini, who is a member of parliament for Tamale North.